Okay, hello. Make sure this is all working. A little bit dark, but hopefully it should be okay. Got the fan on as well because it's very hot. But thought I'd do a little late night stream to talk about that game. So let me know if you're in here. Make sure everything's working all good. Mike, etc. Big up Daniel saying didn't we look leggy for the game? Hope we get better through at the Club World Cup. And happy Delap got an assist. I hope he starts next game. I think he deserves to. I think Jackson was good as well. We're going to talk about the entire team, obviously. So I've got sort of the starting 11, all of the subs that came on. We're going to talk about each one. What I thought about them, what you thought about them, any questions you've got about the tactical landscape of the game. So we're going to do this stream tonight, and then tomorrow I've got a video that's coming out as well, which will talk about a few of the different tactics and bits to expect. So surprised with the strong lineup, I was actually a little bit, purely because of, like I said on the stream this morning, and I think you were there, John Lowe, that I thought that they'd have Flamengo in mind, and now Maresca has come out and said, where is it? Maresca said something, can't find it now, but he said something along the lines of having to like recover, and obviously like he knows that obviously players are not up to it in terms of they've only just come back from the sort of break that they've had, been away on international and all these things. So like he wasn't too disappointed with the performance with that in mind. And that's kind of why I thought that Flamengo would be taken as the most serious game of the three, sorry. So it'll be interesting to see the lineup for that Flamengo game now. How many players retain their place? How many start? Like how many changes do we make to sort of freshen things up? Do we go straight away again? It'll be very interesting, but I was surprised with the strength of the lineup. I was. Let's go, CMD. I think you missed the morning stream, didn't you? But they just got better with this live stream coming on. Let's go. Big support from CM at DR. Please do drop a like if you haven't already, by the way, just to get that out at the start of the video / stream. We're on 11 so far, so let's run that up. Not sure how well the late night stream will do in comparison to a midday / morning stream, but there we go. We'll see how it does, and hopefully, if not, people can catch up with it tomorrow as a video format. But so the game, let's just have a little chat about the game. This is how Chelsea set up: 4-2-3-1. Lavia Casado is the double pivot. So Enzo missed out, but he came on at half time. Reece James started the game, which I guess some people were confused about. Well, not confused, but didn't expect. Cucurella starting at left back as well. So that was interesting. The wingers both starting, which I expected to an extent in terms of like they're the two starting wingers that we have available. But at the same time, Tyreek George, I thought maybe he could get a start purely because he is that left winger that is actually, like he's the right footer. He's the only right footer we have that can play off that wing at the minute. So that was interesting as well. Jackson leading the line from the start. Daniel saying we looked leggy. I think it was a mixture. I don't actually think we looked as leggy as like say a pre-season. I definitely think you could tell there'd been a little bit of a break in between. I think Madueke, for example, he is one that did look leggy to me. Looked a little bit off it. But then like players like Casado, I think he still looked really sharp. Neto looked sharp. James still looked up to it for what he played. So I wouldn't have said everybody looked leggy, but I can see what you mean. I think it was just the tempo, and we're going to speak about that because I've got a few notes about the tempo because I think that was a big issue in the second half. But let's touch on the first half first because, as you said, I'm known as assailant. Enzo did change the game. He was very good when he came on, but we're going to speak about that because I think the second half was actually it was good in the end. But I think there was a few sort of worries in that second half that we could also speak about in terms of how we sort of dealt with the game. So this is how we set up first half. Cucurella was moving forward into that pocket, and we were basically setting up like this. Colwell there, toss in here, Reece here. Reece was creeping forward a little bit further, and we were sort of seeing a little bit of a mismatchy shape like this. A little bit asymmetrical. It was that back three, if you were to sort of set it up like this with a 2 there, box in the middle, Cucurella moving into this pocket, and then that 3 across the front. Quite generic from what we're used to seeing with this team in Maresca's system. Now, a few of the sort of important touches that I thought were really good in this game and like were working well. Kukurea was doing really well at sort of spinning out into here to be that wide receiver, which we've come to sort of realize with the number eights. They do this a lot, either one or the other. They will spin into this pocket, receive between the wide centre back and the winger. Then they can either progress the ball forwards, they can drive inside, they can recycle. It gives them a lot of options to sort of progress from this area. What Kukurea was doing really well was he was dragging outside to this area. And then as soon as the player would sort of react with him, let's just put this as a red dot, they'd react with him here and they'd sort of pull into here as well. He'd spin back really quickly and sort of get that little bit of space and open up that central pocket. I don't actually think we accessed him as much as we could have. I think we could have accessed him even more. But I do think his counter movement in that pocket was really nice. So that was something to keep an eye on with him. Palmer was doing a similar thing, but I think it was quite right side heavy in the sense that Palmer was quite often coming into this pocket here. Reese was kind of pushing into here. Neto was high. And if anything, it kind of at times looked like Casado would sometimes even bound a little bit higher than Palmer when he was receiving the ball here. And you'd sort of see a bit of a different shape when we were sort of trying to progress the ball through that right side of the pitch through Cole. And again, this is when Kukurea was using those nice movements to become that free man in this pocket. Jackson making some good runs as well. And like I say, Neto and Palmer, I think in the second half, if anything, their sort of connections got really nice and like a little bit better, if anything, because Cole was then able to, rather than receiving so deep, he was actually receiving it a little bit higher up, and we were sustaining a bit more pressure. We was creating these like, sort of like double width moments for Cole and for Neto in these areas. And this is where Cole started to have a little bit more of an influence on the game, finding some nice little connections with Neto, playing some passes into the lap, which we're going to talk about in the second half. So that was good to see as well. We'll stop there really quickly. Any questions on anything that we spoke about? Let's just put like a generic-y type of shape that we would used to see. We'll just put it in here. I'll go for a few questions. I mean, in the right pocket, he is playing as the 10. He's just playing. You mean like playing in the right half space in comparison to the left half space, I'm assuming. I think there's different games that suit him for different moments, but I like when he plays as a right half space player, when he has the license to drift wide, but from the 10, not start wide. I prefer it when he starts at the 10, drifts wide, creates that double width, and then we attack from there. That's what I prefer. Notice Palmer overlapped a lot more in the second half. Do you think Neto should have occupied the right pocket more when Palmer did that? No, I don't, because this is what I mean when I mean sort of like this double width. Like it is a good. It's essentially what you get with a fullback as well. Like when they create those like short little underlaps. Like the idea is that those two in close connectivity can sort of create something, and it's hard for the defenders because obviously you've got the fullback here already. Now the midfielder, yes, they want to shut off this space here, but they also don't want to like fully double up like this because then they leave at the middle of the pitch really open. So when you double up out wide, it's a little bit more confusing for this midfielder. Do they stay or do they go? Like sort of where do they sort of look to sort of cut off that middle, that central access? So I thought that worked really well, and that's something I do like from Cole when he's in that position. What else was we going to say? Let's carry on going through the questions before we speak about a little bit of the like second halfy bits. Wonder how we're going to incorporate Santos. It was interesting that he didn't come on, but again, we are going to speak about Asugo in a bit of different light. I do think that probably means Santos starts the next game. Maybe instead of Lavia, maybe it's sort of Casado and Enzo. Maybe it's Casado and Santos or Enzo and Santos, and then they sort of swap it around and Casado comes on, Lavia comes on. But Santos maybe plays 60 minutes in that game. I'm not completely sure, but I'm not worrying yet. Like, as long as he plays against Flamengo, let's see what happens there. But I was surprised that he didn't come on. I was. Palmer in that role is not it. He can barely shoot or dribble. Maresca needs to do something. Yeah, see, I disagree. Like I said, I don't think he was great today, but especially in that second half, I thought that double width was working really well. I think he sort of was taking players out the game with him as well, receiving in the pocket on the turn. I think he had a few actions where he was just a little bit off it in terms of his actual execution. Wasn't as good as it needed to be in some actions, but nothing too worrying about that. Do you think Santos starts in the 6 or has to be alongside Asugo/Casado? He doesn't have to be at all. He definitely can play in that role as like the defensive midfielder with, say, an Enzo. Like I said, Andre and Enzo. That can work. So that could be what we see against Flamengo. Obviously, again, it would also work if he was alongside an Asugo or a Casado, so that's also an option. You quite like our build-up. The tempo seems quicker and less lethargic. See, we're going to talk about this because in moments, yes, and in moments that is what's needed. And I think there were some really nice patches of play where we sped things up nicely, and it often does happen when Lavia is on the pitch. Forces a few like sort of nice connections, a few sort of 1-2 really quick third man combinations with Casado, and you do find those pockets a little bit quicker, which is obviously good for progression. However, in the second half, which will let's lead us on. Let's sort of start with who came on first. If I quickly scroll down, so it was Fernandez and Gusto at halftime, wasn't it? So James went off. Let's just move you guys over. James went off, and who else went off? Lavia went off. We then saw Enzo, which saw this swap, and we saw Gusto, wherever he is. Yeah, that was the first two changes we saw in the game. Now, what started to happen a little bit more with this, now again, the main change was Enzo coming on, these two sort of switched over. Enzo was still able to drop in here and sometimes create sort of what Palm was doing, like they were creating this sort of wide shape here. Jackson would drop into here as the sort of pentagon player. If Palm was deeper, Enzo would be a little bit higher, vice versa. And again, Jackson, for even in the first half, but in the second half too, a lot of the movement and sort of how Chelsea were trying to set up is within that pentagon shape where Jackson's at the tip of it. The wingers are higher than Jackson. So Jackson's there, the centre back to say here. And the idea is that Jackson comes in here. Do they follow? If they do, then there's space for one of these eights to run into an attack. If not, can the wingers make that run? If not, can Jackson spin off and do it himself? So that was the idea there. However, the tempo for me in the second half was an issue considering we was already 1-0 up. Now, for the first sort of 10, 15 minutes of the half, I don't mind sort of going for it a little bit because it's 1-0, there's still time. If you do concede, it's still 1-0 and you've got time. And if you get a second goal, you can look to kill it off. But if I quickly try and find the momentum chart, there was spikes in the second half, and I think it was because of how we was attacking, looking for that second goal, that allowed them to get into the game and hit us on the break with a little bit more danger than I would have liked. And that was because we, as somebody said, we was trying to speed things up quite quickly through the middle. We was finding Enzo and Palmer in these pockets more quickly, but it also then meant that once we'd found them with, say, a direct pass from, say, Tosin into here, we were slower in terms of our movement to get these players forward and shut off the space in between the pockets and those players, which then meant that if we lost the ball quickly, which on a few occasions we did, or even sometimes it was Casado or Cucurella lost the ball in here, with these players sort of spaced out, looking to receive the ball higher. This then left Chelsea very vulnerable because Gusto would also push up a little bit higher. Like I said, it was a little bit asymmetric with the right centre-back a little bit higher than the left centre-back. And it would leave Chelsea in a little bit of a situation where they were able to sort of exploit that channel quite quickly when the ball's turned over. So that was something in the second half that I think is something that I think is just a bit of rust. I think that Chelsea were really sort of thinking if we can get another goal, we can kill this game off. We can put in a little bit less effort. We can sort of get on to the next one and just sort of put this one to bed. However, it wasn't quite as easy as that. We didn't put it to bed as quickly as we would have liked. And therefore, they had a few chances where they could have scored, and that would have made it an awkward game. Luckily, we kept them out. Sanchez made a couple of good saves in the end. How much XG did they actually end up generating? So it's not got XG for some reason on this one I'm using, but they had one big chance, 7 shots. Sanchez had to make 4 saves. So, yeah, I'll try and find the XG at some point. But all in all, they did miss a big chance as well. So that's quite a big thing. So there was chances for them, and that's part of why I think it happened, because of the tempo control in the game, especially, like I say, within that double pivot. Now, who was the next subs? Was it all 3? I think it was Delap, and I think it was done in like 3 batches of 2, wasn't it? So it was, then it was Delap and Tyreek. So Madueke off, Jackson off, Delap on, Tyreek on. Again, didn't really make too much of a difference to the shape, but what it did do, and I'm going to go up a little bit because somebody put this, CMDR, sorry. Was Delap playing the same role as Jackson, or did you notice anything different tactically? He was still very much looking to drop in at times. Yes, so what was the XG? Sorry, Ayob, I didn't mean for Chelsea, I meant for LAFC. If you've got that on hand, that'd be nice to know in the chat. Because I could get it up on a different website, but I just didn't want to change because I had everything else up on this website. I didn't want to sort of switch over. So Delap was still sort of forming that pentagon at times, like I said earlier, being the tip of that pentagon with these guys running ahead. We saw it with Jackson. We saw it with Delap dropping in, and he sort of stabbed the ball through to George at one point, and we saw Delap sort of linking the play at the tip of the diamond really nicely, at the tip of the pentagon, sorry. So that was good to see. However, of course, tactically, there's not much difference because he can also then run the channels, much like Jackson. The only difference is when it does come into the box, you've got something a little bit more substantial to aim for in terms of an aerial threat and a target. So 0.82 Ayub says in terms of their XG. So not quite 1, but again, the big chance plays into that a bit. And like I say, if they'd have scored from that, then it could have made the game a bit awkward at 1-1. So that's massively why I think the tempo control was a little bit silly in the second half. But at the end of the day, we got it done. So it's nothing too much to worry about in the end. Did you feel Gusto was poor again in this game? And Johnny saying, I really hate Gusto in this role. Yes, he was poor. He had some very poor actions in this game. Again, I just think his confidence is just on the floor. Again, though, he was at right centre-back. He was making a few overlapping runs at times to even sort of join with width. There was just a lot of points in this game where he was in and around good areas to receive the ball as the wide centre-back and drive, but just lacking confidence, lacking quality at the minute. It's just for me, it's a confidence thing, and it's just one of those things where Gusto, I don't want to keep talking about his poor performances too much because I feel like we cover that quite a bit. Like I keep saying, I think his actual level of understanding isn't as bad as, say, that confidence is sort of like leading it to believe currently. Overall, I think we are improving in this system, but IMO and upgrading our winger options will improve this system further. What is your thoughts? Yep, absolutely. I think the wingers would be a huge upgrade. Like another direct left winger is just the next upgrade that we need in the team for sure. So I do agree. Would you start the lap next game? It's so hard because when Jackson's played a fairly decent game, he's got an assist. It kind of feels unfair to just completely drop him out. However, Liam has also just proven with 30 minutes in the end that he also deserves to start. So maybe Maresca flips it on its head. He starts to lap in the next one, and then Jackson starts the third one, and they still continue to battle it out. It's going to be interesting. River Plate have just scored, by the way. I've got that on in the background. Not River Plate, Boca Juniors have scored. They're 1-0 up against Benfica. So very interesting. Because I think with Benfica, who we could potentially play them in the round of 16. So that is very interesting. Anyway, any other questions? What we got? Maresca seems to like Madueke more in the left winger role now. If so, does the picture change? I don't think he likes him more out there. I just think we don't really have options at the minute. I think it would be Neto / Madueke playing as the right winger during this tournament if we had another left winger, but we just don't. So I think the choices are. I think what I think he actually prefers is I think he just prefers Madueke's output on the left than Neto's output on the left, because obviously what we saw a lot more in the start of the season was it the other way round, where Neto, whenever they played together, Neto would play on the left and Madueke would play on the right. It was poor today. He's had a few good performances on the left, but it was poor today. He was getting trapped out on the sideline way too often on his left foot, on his right foot, sorry. He was getting stuck inside when he was trying to come in, and he was lacking that sort of bit of, like I said, he was the one that looked very leggy to me as well in comparison to a lot of others. He looked a little bit shot for energy. What about Jackson on the wing for next game? Delap up front? Possibly. I don't think we will, but possibly. You never know. Could be something that he experiments with. Anyway, let's also just bring in like Asugo and Kunku to speak about them. And Kunku, nothing special in the game, in my opinion. Didn't really touch the ball. How many touches did he actually have? Let's have a quick look. Because I didn't really notice him too much. Like he got on the ball a few times in the pocket. I remember seeing him pick up the ball, but how many touches did he actually have? He had 7 out of 7 accurate passes, 9 touches. So 1 dribble attempt successful, nothing too special. I think they're just trying to drive his price, in all honesty. I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to make him give him more resale value. So that was interesting that he came on, considering you have players like Andre on the bench, even Dewsbury Hall. So for me, it is to do with the resale value. And then Asugo coming in for Casado, as we keep predicting, is going to continue to happen. Just, again, really good cameo from him. Let's just have a quick look what his stats were saying for it. But within 10 minutes, 7 out of 8 accurate passes, won his only ground duel, made a tackle, nearly actually won it high up the pitch to sort of give us a chance near the end. So very happy with his contribution at the start. I think he's going to be really, really important this year for what he's going to be. I think he'll come off the bench in games. I think he'll help us see out games. I think he's a bruiser. He's an engine. He will work hard, and he will just make it really, really tough for opposition teams when Casado gets subbed out, or even if you want them in there together for the last 10 minutes of games. Just really hard work to get past them. Not going to give you a minute's rest, and they're just going to bug you. And I think that he is just perfect for that. So what did you guys think of Asugo? Let me know what you thought of Asugo. I want to hear your thoughts now on Asugo and Delap. I want those two. I want your thoughts on those two, because obviously they're the new boys. And then you can also chuck in any other sort of performances that you think should be highlighted. Let me know. Let me know really quick now which ones you think should have been highlighted. We've also got 35 people in the building, so drop a like if you haven't already. We are on 17 likes, so we can get that up to at least 30 with 35 people in here. Let's get that up to 30 easily. Who would you prefer to start midfield for the next game? I would say next game, I'd be looking at Andre for sure. So let's say Andre starts. Still think Asugo's more going to be just from the bench. So I think it would be Santos, Enzo. Where's Enzo? Santos and Enzo as the two, I think. Give Casado a rest. Give Santos a start. Give Enzo a start because he didn't start either. Cucurella is still just a tough one, but I just don't think anything's going to happen. And yeah, literally, he was just a bruiser, wasn't he, Junlo? Really need a right winger in the knockout stages. I wouldn't say a right winger. I mean, a left winger, I'd agree, Kaz. Because we've got Neto and Noni for the right, and then Esteval joining. Obviously not for the Club World Cup, but I think a left wing for the knockout stages would be important. I agree. If we could get Gittins in, but again, I don't think he can play now because he's the one I want, but he can't play now because the Dortmund, because they took him on the flight, took him to the squad. Really scared for Cucurella's fitness, no one to replace him with, and again, unknown assailant. I keep saying it wrong. Cucurella's back up in the current squad? ? There isn't one in this current squad. There literally isn't one. It would be Gusto playing. It would be Gusto or Reese playing, or Chempong playing as a left back because he is the only left back in the team. They didn't take Ishe Samuel Smith for some reason. Oh, I thought Boca Juniors just scored a second. They didn't take him for some reason, so that's a massive shame. I think they missed a trick there for sure. So yeah, it's going to be tough to see what we do with that because I really don't know how they're going to sort of navigate that now. Especially there was a point today where he looked like he took a little bit of a knock and he was limping for a few seconds. So that was already scary enough because you just know that there's nothing there to replace him. Very sad to watch Gusto play. Yeah, it was another poor performance from him. Really hope to see Anselmino get minutes to finally see him play for us. Be nice to see him maybe in the third game, get some minutes. But again, I think he's one that either way, he needs a loan next season. Boca Juniors have scored a second. 2-0 Boca Juniors. Wow. Smashing Benfica at the minute, 2-0. Crazy. Who else is in their group? Forgot. Because like I say, I think if we top the group, we play. Let me quickly see if I can find it. Yes, because they're in the group with Bayern. So that is it. So that we play second in the group for that if we top the group. So currently, that would mean Boca Juniors. Say Boca Juniors beat Benfica and then they beat Auckland City. Even if they lose to Bayern, as long as Bayern win all their games, Boca Juniors would finish second and we'd play them in the round of 16. That would be an interesting one for Enzo. Very interesting. Who would you guys prefer to play, Boca or Benfica? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Isaiah. What's good? Because Boca are 2-0 up. Sugo definitely looks promising. Most will probably disagree, but I think Delap is capable of hitting 20 Prem goals. If he's the starter, I genuinely I definitely think he's capable. I'm not saying he will or won't. I think I said 15 if he's the starter was my prediction, but that's not to say he's not capable of 20 because I absolutely think he is. He's got all the tools. I thought his performance today was so good because again, what we didn't actually mention was this link up, and this is going to be a staple between these two. By the way, the amount of times that Palmer looks up, the lap sort of made a little movement in towards Palmer, into here, tiny like micro movement, and this is something I've always praised about the lap is those micro movements to sort of offset a defender. He makes a little micro movement in this direction, and then he uses his other leg to spring off in this direction, and that's the moment. And because Palmer's played to him, he knows what he's doing with that. He plays that ball into that channel, and that's where Delap creates those moments of chaos for him. And again, he's got the quality. Nearly created the first goal from it, where he sort of driven to the byline and cut it back. I can't think he was arriving at the time. Might have even been Enzo on that one as well. But then for the second goal as well, okay, the same again. Palmer made that pass into the channel. That gets the ball, brilliant cross into the box. Enzo finishes perfectly. So that was a staple sort of pattern in this game that we saw between this triangle, really, with those two creating for each other and Enzo crashing the box. And that is something that you can come to sort of definitely get to grips with, especially with the Delap and Palmer dynamic of that sort of ball into the channel and Delap's little micro movements to create that little bit of separation for himself. So that's definitely something to watch for and continue to watch for. KC and PSG in the final, yeah, in the quarterfinal, yes, it would be. But I'm kind of excited for that one, and let me know what you guys sort of think about that, because like either way, we're going to have to play someone of that level at that point. And I just think they're such a good matchup for us in the sense of it really shows us where we're at, because both similar sort of positional types of football. Yes, they have a lot more fluidity already injected into their team, but it's a few things that I think we're going to try and inject into the team. And when we have like so many technicians in the team, we've got a lot of good athletes in the middle of the park that can sort of compete. Quality wise, they're going to have a lot for us. But like you got saying here, we have a chance. UCL warm up. I do think it is something that will actually benefit us in the long run a lot. So it's one of those games that I am really looking forward to. If we can get there, that's the sort of thing that this tournament hopefully can give us. If it's not going to give us anything else, like let's get to the quarterfinals. It won't be, and then once we get to that quarterfinals, everybody's sort of happy with how we've progressed through the tournament, and it will then just become about how do we deal with that game. As long as we don't get smashed, we don't come out of it looking bad, and either way we leave with something in terms of experience. So that's a huge sort of point. That's for me. That's what I'm earmarking. I just want to get to there, and then let's assess things. Big weakness in Marquinhos we can exploit with the lap. I think that would be a really cool one to sort of like, if the lap can sort of cheat towards Marquinhos' side, use that sort of pace and power against him, and then have these sort of late runs from Enzo or Palmer to sort of deceptively get beyond Pacho. Then yeah, I agree. I think that could be something that you can use. Is Lavia, Moy, Palmer our most balanced midfield? I don't think so. Yeah, I know Mo Wolfel. I know, I've got it on in the background here. 2-0, crazy. That means we'd play Boca if they beat Auckland, pretty much. That would more or less confirm it. As long as Bayern win all their games, we would be playing Boca in the round of 16 if we top our group. So very, very interesting. Tournament football, no upsets yet, but anything can happen. Yeah, it's very early on. I wouldn't be surprised. Like upsets at this point when there's quite a big disparity in the sort of quality. Although I think Palmeiras, I think they give a really good run. Like a few of those South American sides, like, I mean, Boca now 2-0 up against Benfica. I thought Palmeiras were the better side last night against Porto. So, I don't know. It's been some fun games in that sense. I'm going to finish this stream up soon, so I'm going to go chill out and watch the second half in a bit more detail for this one, because it seems to be a nice little game. And that's what I said as well, Mofil. Enzo's a former River Plate player. Playing Boca would be very interesting. It'd be fun. Going back to this, though, Kaz. Is the Lavia, Moy, Palmer our most balanced midfield? I think it's our strongest in terms of off the ball. It gives us the most protection. and it probably is our most balanced. But I think you lose the passing range of it. I think it all just depends what we need in the game. I think that's what's so good about our team and like what we've got in the midfield. With lots of different profiles, is we can sort of configure the midfield based on what we need for that game. So if you need Enzo's long passing and that sort of IQ and even the box crashing now, that's something you can bring into the team through him. If you need Andre a little bit more sort of grit, but you still want that ability to arrive in the box, be that sort of box to box link, that's something he's brilliant at, and he can be the 6. Lavia, the press resistance that he brings in the number 6. Casado, again, we just know how good he is. Asugo late in games. It gives you a lot to sort of work with as like a 5-man sort of group, if you will. Any last questions before we end up the stream? This was just a little quick half an hour one. Like I said, there's going to be a video out tomorrow going into detail about which tactics we did see throughout the game. We're at 25 likes. If you haven't already dropped a like, just before you leave, please do drop one in the comments. Drop a like in the comments. That makes no sense. Drop a like on the video. I look forward to Chelsea playing against the big teams. Good reality check. Exactly that. Siab Malik Fofana or Gittins. I said this on Twitter. For me, it's Gittins purely on the fact that he's more pace and power, and he's a little bit more built for the Premier League now. Malik Fofana, I think he's tidy on the ball, and I really do like him. I rate him a lot. I tweeted about him before there was any links towards him with Chelsea. But his height and I think he could be overpowered a little bit. I also think he's a little bit more of a creator than he is a goal scorer, which is something I kind of want on that left-hand side. I want somebody who's very direct towards goal. Malik Fofana is direct with how he moves towards the box and how he sort of finds box entries through creative sort of dribbling and creative passes inside. But yeah, that's where I'm at on that one. What's your lineup for the next game? We'll talk about that in the middle of the week because I think we need to think about that. One thing, I'll give you one teaser. I want Andre to start. So I would, no matter what, I'll be putting Andre as a starter. And even if it's just for my predicted lineup / what lineup I'd play, Andre will be in it because that's what I want to see. But we'll leave that for a midweek stream because I don't want to do everything straight away, considering we'll talk about that game in more detail. Why did FIFA just decide to put a whole new tournament in America? Even South America would have been so much better. It's only for this. It's just the host for this one. So again, in 4 years' time, it'll be a different host. It's not always going to be in America. I think FIFA are doing this for preparation for the World Cup. Was that in reply to Kaz, John Lowe, or something else? Seeing there was more line breaking, progressive passing activity tonight. What do you think? I think it was more aggressive at points. I think, like I said earlier, I think we was trying to force things a little bit more. But I think in the first half that was fine, and a little bit into the second half it was fine. I think there became a point where we needed to slow that tempo down and take control, and we didn't. So that for me was a bit of a worry that we didn't do that. But now it's getting to a point where you can go between the two, and the best teams can go between the two with a flick of a switch. I think that's something that we still struggle with the age of the team, the sort of familiarity of the team. I think we get stuck in one way for a little bit too long, and we struggle to turn it as quickly as we would like. I think as soon as we can sort of begin to turn that switch a little bit quicker when we slow the game down and when we speed things up, I think that will benefit everybody in the team. And Maresca, I think that's what he wants. One last refresh to see what we got. We are up to 27 likes. 3 more likes. Leave it to 30 as we all head out of the building. That will be it for today because we just had a little 30-minute sort of pre-match stream just to speak about the game and what we saw. Tomorrow I'll have a video out on the channel which will be discussing all the tactics that we saw with some highlights, like some little sort of tactical draw-ups and bits. End it off with Kaz saying Palmer is so worrying. Why didn't he crash the box like Enzo? They're both attacking 8s in this system. Yeah, he's not really a box crasher in terms of how he wants to arrive in the box at the minute, is he? Like, he's not got that type. He wants to be the creator, and I do actually want him to continue to be that creator because I do think he's got so many qualities of that, and I think we're going to see him get way more assists this season with his sort of out-swinging crosses to the lap and those little link-ups, like I said, with the lap and the channels, and even with the wingers. So, yes, I get what you mean in terms of how he attacks the box, but I'm not worried about Palmer. He's not the sort of player that I'm worried about. And if I am, I will state it if it gets to a point where I start to worry about him. But I'm not at that point yet. Nowhere near that point yet. Unnoas, I keep saying it wrong. Assailant. Enjoy the second half, bro. Thank you very much, man. I will do. Like I say, 2-0 still to Boca. About 8 minutes left of this first half. And then we're going to chill for the second half. So that'll be nice. Just chill out for the evening after a long day of work. So, there's a little scrap going on at the minute. Renato Sanchez, he was a baller. He was a baller. Okay, we're going to end it there because I'm just waffling on now. Make sure we're back here tomorrow. We'll do another stream to talk about things in a bit more detail. And we'll also do a tactics video, which will be out on the channel in the morning/midday. So make sure you're here for that. Drop a like on that. Leave a comment on that. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.